Special needs, autism, Fragile X, ADHD, these are words that have come to be a big part of our family story. So today, we want to talk about it. Hey, thanks for clicking play today. We're talking about just a little bit of our family story and whatnot. But first thing, go ahead, if you haven't yet, click subscribe, hit the like button, let us know. And if you have today we're just sharing a little bit of our story, especially our story with our fourth kid, which we have 5. And so if you have a question, or a comment, make sure you drop it down below in the comment section. We would love to hear your questions, and maybe even we could come back and do even a question and answer kind of thing. Not that we have all the answers, but
as you'll find out.
Exactly. So we have, for those of you that may be watching this and don't know us personally, we have 5 kids. And of those 5, our fourth kid is diagnosed with Fragile X, which is a genetic disorder of his X chromosome. The non-fancy way of describing it is there's a protein on there that repeats way too much. If you know about it, that's probably a terrible definition. But for people who don't know what we're talking about, that's pretty good. There's a genetic abnormality on his X chromosome that causes
intellectual disabilities. Yeah.
And he also has diagnoses of autism and ADHD and apraxia, and the list kind of goes on. And he has some other disorders that affect his muscle tone and stuff like that. So, but today we're specifically just kind of sharing that beginning part of our story. So, I remember when he was about 1 and a half. I remember so vividly. We were already in the house we're in now, and he was in his high chair. This is the first time I kind of had the thought of hey, I don't know that everything is normal. I was trying to get him to play ball with me. He was in his high chair, and he couldn't. It wasn't that he couldn't grasp the ball, but he didn't seem interested. I just remember so vividly in that moment, kneeling at his high chair thinking, I don't think everything is normal, which is not necessarily the best way of saying it. And so I apologize if that's offensive. I don't mean it to be. We're just being honest. And so how about you? What was that first stage? That was kind of the moment I realized this is going to look different. Yeah. How did that go for you? How long did that take? What was that moment like for you?
I think it was not as much a sudden moment or, even a realization as it was just just trying to be hopeful and hang on for developmental things to happen and doing the thing where and people tell me this all the time and have told us this, and it's precious and very kind of them, and I know they mean well. But when people would say oh, he's just got his own schedule, or he'll get it in his own time, it's okay. Special needs parents are tough enough to handle those kind of well-meaning comments. But when you know that that's not true about your child, that they do have their own timing and they're going to need a lot of help, that isn't helpful. And so I remember even telling myself those things oh, it's just his own timing. He's going to talk at his own timing. And so I think that was how it was for me. It was just sort of this kind of denial of no, it's going to happen. This milestone's going to happen. It's just going to take a little longer. And, or, oh, look, he did that. Okay, well, and then telling myself, oh, well, then, that's fine. Everything's better. But knowing deep down that, when you're a parent, you just know.
I remember being so stressed out. Oh gosh, that he wasn't crawling on time, and he wasn't like he was a year old, and he was a year old, and he wasn't even like really
he started
crawling
when he was 1. Yeah.
And a lot of we had other friends who had kids like the same age, and like their 1-year-old is like feels like they're running marathons already, and I'm like, and I just remember being so like just tightly wound.
Yeah.
Freaking out like he's not walking. He's not walking. And he didn't walk for like a year and a half or something, right?
Well, he's like 18 months. 18,
yeah. And then he started walking, and that was great. And then of course, then you're dealing with the thing of like we started. I think he went on his first like speech evaluation therapy when he was 2.
Yeah,
we kind of started the journey right about 2 years old, right?
Thankfully, I was taking him to our pediatrician that week, and for his just 2-year-old well visit. And the doctor had never noticed anything, even in all those visits before, had never been a concern. And you were like, hey, will you ask them about this? And I really didn't want to, because I felt like, oh gosh, I'm going to ask this, and then this is just going to be like admitting the worst, right? And so I said, hey, we have some concerns about his retaining vocabulary that he's learning. Because so we found out this was very typical of apraxia. This is how it kind of is for a long time. He would say a word, and then he would drop it. They call it drop, like he would lose it, and he wouldn't say it again. And so he was saying things like Bubby, which is what they call their oldest brother, and then he wouldn't say it again, and you couldn't get him to really like engage in that way. Saying mama, dad, he was saying syllables that are very baby syllables, but he wasn't actually being, consistent in that. And so that's when we went to, they evaluated him for speech early on and started that journey. And he was 2. Yeah.
And listen, y'all, like we've been to, I feel like every kind of child doctor that involves everything. Like a kid from their chest up.
Yeah. Yeah.
we were like at obviously like ear, nose, and throat.
Yeah, they checked hearing and
checked
throat.
Hearing I feel like a couple times they tried to check his hearing.
Mm-hmm. He also had a voice quality that was very gravelly, like he didn't have control.
Screamed a lot.
Yeah, and so he hoarse a lot.
Yeah, we were nervous that he was like messing up his vocal cords, and so took him to the throat doctor, and they like stuck a camera in his throat, or however that worked out, and they looked at it and was like, oh no, he's fine, he should be okay. And it took a long time for us to finally get somebody to do genetic testing. It was our last it was our Hail Mary on all of it. It was just like, because we had already been to an autism evaluation at that point, right?
And they had said no, because and this is not really we didn't have a great experience here. And even doctors after have agreed. So she ended up saying, well, he makes eye contact and he smiles. Well, he would smile when he would, hit his sister, and she cried really hard too. And so it was like, yeah, but he doesn't smile at the right times. He just by default smiles. Yes, I know that's not typical of autism, but so she said, no, he's not autistic. We have since then gotten the autism diagnosis, but we had to push through another evaluation for that. So even after that, the doctors, the therapists, they're like, no, we know that there's something else, because he was in therapy for the apraxia.
Yeah.
But his awesome speech therapist, she was like, we have to advocate for him to get further testing, because he should be further along than this. Like, he's done great and he's gone at his own pace, but at this stage in the therapy, I'm running out of things to give him and teach him, because we're just not moving fast enough. And they just knew that there was a lot of contextual things he wasn't able to understand. There was a lot of just very like applicable things in normal life that he wasn't able to fully grasp at that point.
Yeah, and so like if you're on that journey, like just hear us out. Trust your instincts.
Yeah.
As a parent, don't give into the like. One, don't give into your own like defeating voice.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes that like denial voice. But if you feel like inside of you that no, I don't think we have all the answers. Like there's something off. Now, having said that, of course, like yeah, kids move at their own pace. Right. Every kid's different. Every autistic kid is different. And that was the thing that like even our therapists now, they talk about him as being tricky.
Yeah, they're like
he's so tricky. like he's really hard to figure out. And it's like, yes, because he's a human being.
Right.
Like
he doesn't fit your textbook.
Right.
Yeah.
Very few human beings fit into a mold. And so just advocating for the uniqueness of your child.
Any good doctor is going to advise you to do that. They're going to say, you know your mom, your dad, you know your child.
You know your kid, you know your child. And so just continuing to like be their voice of, especially even when they don't have a voice, is so important to like you said, advocate for them and be that voice for them. And so after the genetic testing, we discovered, of course, that he had a genetic abnormality, which is known as Fragile X. It's like we said before, it's in the DNA of his body. Yeah. And so it causes, it is the source of a lot of other issues. Yes. So the autism, the apraxia, the ADHD, like it all kind of for him, this isn't true for every kid, of course, because they're all unique. But for him, it really a lot of it all comes down to that. Yeah. And so kind of where we're at today, he just turned 7. So this all, like some of this story happened 5, 6 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. We're in the public school system, and we love his teachers. He has his good days, and he has his more difficult days. Yeah. So just kind of as a closing thought, really, dealing like that's one of the things I think that kind of throws me off. And maybe you handle it better, or maybe you mask it better. I don't know. I liken it, if people ask me what's it like to have a kid like that, my analogy kind of tends to go to like roller coaster. Like every day's different most of the time. And so like you have great days and you have difficult days. And it's like continually shifting. And for me, sometimes I feel like that can throw me off. And that's how I would what's it like being a parent in that scenario? I'm like, well, man, good days, hard days, difficult days, fun days. There are moments of like just pure joy and laughter. And then there are moments of like pulling your hair out, you know? And so for me, that like, I can never feel like I can kind of get into a routine. He's always throwing the routine off. And again, say what you want, like this is our story and that's cool. Yeah. How's that for you? Like if you were telling somebody like, you know, what's it like, and you had like 60 seconds, not that you only have 60 seconds, but like.
I think this could sound insulting. It's not meant that. We have a perpetual 3 to 4 year old.
Yeah.
That gets stronger and taller, bigger all the time. But he's brilliant in so many ways. He can learn things that other kids can't learn. And so the phrase of differently abled, like that totally, I think, explains what we usually call disabled children and adults. They are differently abled because their minds and their bodies will compensate in such a way to make up for where they feel insecure or where they're lacking. And so he's amazing. but it is really difficult, and as a parent, it's okay to admit that it is disheartening and discouraging to know that we're at age 7 and we're basically still potty training. I mean, he's come a long way, but we still deal with that. And if you're a parent of a toddler, you know what that entails. Just imagine it,
for like
for somebody
6 years.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there are those kinds of behind the scenes things that I know a lot of parents now with disabled children or children with special needs, and they do mask it well, because I think that's been the hardest thing to just kind of embrace and just say, you know what, this is his story and his journey, and we have, for whatever reason, like, how in the world did God see us fit for this, that we had the patience and the courage to do this? We don't. But God is so good and so faithful in that. And just like anything we do that's hard in life, you get through the days and you wake up and have a new opportunity in the morning.
Yeah.
And you do it. And there's moments of laughter and smiling, throughout. So.
Yeah, I think there's a grace available.
Yeah.
That you don't
Thank
have
goodness.
beforehand.
No.
But it comes in the moment. Like,
I mean,
it
it's double
literally
parenting.
comes
Yeah.
in the moment.
Yeah.
The cheesy kind of phrase, God's never early or late. He's always right on time. It's like it's very true. It's like the grace that you need to handle the moment only comes in the moment.
Yeah.
And sometimes you blow it.
Oh, yeah.
I've blown it so many times. It's embarrassing to admit, but there's grace for that. There's forgiveness for that. And so I would say like a couple things. One, if you have friends whose kids are differently abled, pray for them.
Yeah.
Pray for them a little bit.
They're probably
extra.
not revealing everything they feel.
Yeah, they're
and they don't have to.
yeah.
It's okay.
You don't have to like force them to
Yeah.
like share and talk and stuff. They may not want to.
Yeah.
But just pray for them a little bit extra. But then also one of the things that I think I struggle with, honestly, is the fear that I have of going into public. Mm-hmm. And the stares and the comments and the looks and the whispers and all that. So just from one dad who's dealing with that, just don't,
Don't
just
never do that. You don't know what is going on.
Yeah, and I used to be that guy. I used to be the guy that would look at it and be like, man, they need to get that kid under control. They need to do so. That's some terrible parenting, man. They need to introduce some discipline to that kid. And then I find, like, God's sense of humor. I find myself on the other end, and I'm like, I'm actually doing I'm bringing my kid in public, and that's a win.
Yeah.
Like we're not just holed up in the house. We're actually in the restaurant trying to eat and experience a little bit of normalcy. And so just let kindness kind of be the filter, and smile, and even just, hey, you're doing a great job. Like, I find myself doing that now, just to complete strangers. I'm like, hey, Mom, you're doing a great job. I just wanted to tell you, you're doing
lock
awesome.
eyes with them and be like,
you got this. Like, just
we're doing
being
this.
encouragement.
We can do it.
So.
Yeah.
All right, man. It was a fun conversation. We'll periodically just throw in these kind of moments where we just talk about that experience in our story and whatnot. So we hope you've enjoyed it. Again, just as a reminder, what do they need to do? They need to like and subscribe and share with your friends our channel. We're excited to share life and with you, and we think it's going to be a fun ride. So thanks for joining us today.